Okay, one. Anybody else? Two. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kevin
So
Hines.
please introduce yourself and
I'm Kevin Hines.
Hello, my name is
Already paid. I'm just here.
Okay. I got you. My name is Brock Estes, and I'm a somewhat familiar call sign. My call is WF4J, not unlike W4FJ, whom I met here years ago. Anyway, I've been ham. We've just moved to a 55+ community. Aluminum all inside my attic just roof, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be a Faraday cage or if I'm going to get out. We'll see.
any other visitors tonight? Why don't we go ahead and introduce themselves? I'm Rick.
I'm getting
K4HM,
I'm
the
getting
president.
double audio feed. Is that just me? My hearing's on to hell.
Can you people on Zoom hear us? Give us a sign. That says that's no, they're not hearing us. Okay. Test. Anybody hear me? Okay, one
I can
person.
hear you, but there's still a
One
lot
person.
of background
Everybody else hear
behind
us?
you.
I don't see any. Put your hand up on the TV if you can. I don't see any hands going up. One person, Dan can, all right, okay. Anyway, so
You got it clear now, but I don't know if you can hold it or not.
that guy's not mute. Okay. All right. Can you all hear me now? All right, good. So I'm Rick K4HM, the president, and we're just going to go to the room and have other people introduce themselves.
All right. Who are you? I'm Bruce McAllister, W4BRU. We're back. Go ahead. Dennis Farmer, KG4UTT. Win Grant, W4WIM. N4EG, Maiden Pyramid. Mike K4RKM.
Gene K4GME. Lauren WD4FMG.
Daryl, WW4F.
Armin WA1UQO.
Giles KN4MFQ.
David KO4RNT.
Bill N4WLC.
Doug KK4LSE. Jeff KN4SYE. Steve W4SB.
David Whiskey Delta 3 Oscar.
Ray N4AIX.
John K5HTZ.
Will KA4RAC.
And WV0L.
All right, that's perfect. All right. So why don't we go ahead and start the business part of the meeting? And I'm sure everyone has read and memorized the meetings from the notes, the minutes from the last meeting. So does anyone have a question or comment about the minutes from the December meeting? Sir? Oh, I'm sorry. That's a good idea, Bruce. Okay, I don't know how you do that in any sequential order, but I'll let you figure it out. Okay, so you're going to be unmuted and be able to introduce yourselves. What? Well, you know, their picture is on there with their name. I don't know how tedious that's all going to be. Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, I move that we I request a movement that the minutes from last month be approved. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any old business to discuss? Okay, how about treasurer's report from Ken?
I guess I'll come over and sit right here beside you. This way. We started the month with $20,586.16. We had a whole bunch of dues come in, and we had, let's see, let me subtract it. We had $282 worth of dues come in, and Bruce gave us a $100 donation. We had some expenses. We bought a plaque for the Sterling Park Amateur Radio QSO for $60. And we bought the new form package for $99. So we had $159 of expenses and $382 of income, which then left us with $20,809.16. And I have 5 new members that would like to join the club. So Ronnie Bolton, who's an extra, call sign WU4G. Let me get the next one here. Dallas Jolly, who's an extra also, KG7WET. We have Kevin Lamont, who's a general, W2TVS. Nicholas Bambacus, something close to that at least. Sorry, I messed up your name. Who's a general, W4NRB. And Kevin Hines, who's a technician, KO4CTL. That's it.
Can I have a motion to approve those new members? Can any second it? Everybody in favor? Okay. There's a little bit of new business. I got a letter or an email from Megan Schultz, who's with Sports Backers, and she's involved with the Richmond Marathon and UCrop's Monument Avenue to do 10K. And she was asking if our radio club would be interested in participating in a communication role for those races. I know in the past, some members of RATS have done the MS bike ride, and people have done the Special Olympics. And I guess in the days of COVID, I'm not sure how much of that goes on, but I was wondering among the membership, I know there are some people who were particularly interested in doing that in the past, but just wondering among the membership if there was any interest in this club participating in that kind of activity. That's one.
After these kids.
And I've already spoken with Jeff Walton, who's the president of RATS, and he has an interest in. So I think that I can talk to Megan. And I think historically, and correct me if I'm wrong, RATS has done more of this thing than this club has. But so I'll talk to her and see what we can do. And also Jeff has an announcement about Winter Field Day.
Hello, my name is Jeff Walton, RATS president, KN4SYE. We have Winter Field Day, 28th and 29th at Pocahontas State Park. We have rented the lodge and we've also rented cabins. We can sleep, let's say 24 people at a time. They're bunk beds, they're new mattresses wrapped in plastic. So it's kind of like camping. If you have a heater, bring a heater. The other thing is we're going to have food Saturday night at 6 o'clock. KC4TS will be doing testing at 9 a.m. Saturday morning till about 11:30. Then noon starts the field day. There is no parking fee for you guys to come into Pocahontas State Park. You come in, tell them that you need to go to like the Appomattox cabin. So as soon as you go past the guard shack, you make an immediate right. Go down the road, you'll see where you can bear left onto a gravel road. Go down there. The 88 repeater will be used for talk-in. So anybody needs to get directions into there, If a line develops, we're going to do 30 minutes at a time on the radio. And have a sign up sheet. We will have a donation box there. We've already had plenty of donations come in. Just our club members alone have raised $450 to put on this event. Trying to think what else is there. Bring a dish, bring a snack, bring cookies. I mean, we're going to be up playing on the radios all night long. We will have a Morse code key for people they want to do Morse code. So we'd love to have you guys come out. Everyone's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Now, I know Rats has some radios, so they'll be bringing those and setting up antennas or.
Try to have 4 radios going.
Okay.
Try to make
Right.
sure we don't hold that.
Anybody have any questions for Jeff about that tonight? Okay, Bruce, you go. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. Bruce, tell us about the schools.
Okay, so we got the instructors all lined up. We've looked at the schedule. So we're going to have schools starting on the 28th of February. They're different lengths, so they all kind of start a little bit scattered. But people will be able to sign on for tech, general, and extra online as usual at our website. Pay for it there, the whole bit, and then we'll have an in-house final registration on the 21st of February. And then the next week, we start our first class. And the tech is going to be a little longer because they're using a new curriculum, and George is not quite sure quite how long he needs. So he's kind of gone overboard to give himself plenty of time. The rest of us have got it worked out, I think. So we're going to teach tech, general, and extra. And I'm looking at doing the skills seminars like the antenna modeling, that sort of thing. I just haven't had enough runway yet to kind of get at that. So, but I'd say by the end of the week, I will have it up on the website. And Dan Bryant is putting together the publicity on it. So we're trying to get all that together so we can get the word out. So we're going to try and make a hard push this time.
Thank you, Bruce. Now, is there a technical committee report or an update on the remote station?
Well, John, who's going to give us the talk tonight, sent me a note and said the station isn't working. So I went on. It's been really solid. So I went on, and the network wouldn't let me through. And then so I sent a note to Ken, and you got through. Rebooted both the radio and the computer, and
Can't hear you.
my issue was the network I got to the switch, but I wouldn't let me turn it on and off. So I could get to the switch or the network. I don't know what was going on. And I used 2 different computers. So, whatever it was, and Windows for that, that's amazing for me. Okay. Anyway, it's been pretty solid until John made the comment. I used it Monday night, and, I've been checking most days. So anyway.
Thank you, Bruce. Lauren, I know you're working on publicizing the club. Anything you want to tell us about that?
No, just kidding. I've been kind of picking people's brains here about what we want to do, what we want to put in a flyer. And so hopefully next month we'll have a sort of a mock draft of a potential new flyer. And Ken did give me some cards that we can use at VE testing to hand out business cards that advertise the club.
Thank you. Anybody else have any announcements or comments they want to make?
And if you got it online, you have to use the raised hand.
Yes, somebody need to watch that screen so somebody has a comment. So Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think the curator here, Mr. Tom Flippin. I had talked to him about if they were going to do the roof here or whatnot, and if they haven't as of yet, I still offer my services to go up there and help on the roof and do whatever. Okay, that's all. That thing picking up.
You can't hear yourself. All right. Anybody get any new equipment or have any? All right.
Kevin Hines.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
You need to unmute yourself, Kevin. We shut you all down. You have to put the unmute button.
Hi, I'm sorry. I couldn't get unmuted. I'm driving. I just wanted to say that I'm very interested in the general class. So if whoever's in charge could keep me posted, I would appreciate it.
Okay, look at our website in about a week or so.
Thanks so much.
Any of the other virtual people have any questions or comments? 'Cause so I was asking if anybody had gotten any new equipment or had any good contacts or anything recently? Nothing. Oh, go ahead, Lauren.
Well, so I've worked that guy that's down in Crozet a couple times. And then that's right. So that's been pretty exciting for me. And then there's another group over in the Republic of Congo. And I've talked to them quite a few times on different bands.
It's been long. I have been trying to get there.
Jeff had a comment.
We did POTA last weekend at Pocahontas State Park on 20 watts on 20 meter. We went to Africa from Pocahontas State Park. So it was pretty awesome.
I tried to get you.
So yesterday, Bruce and I heard this guy who was pedestrian mobile in Jekyll Island, Georgia with 25 watts, and he was working into a VK doing that, walking down the beach. That's pretty. The way he described it was a pretty big vertical. So I bet a lot of other beachgoers are kind of getting a look at that guy. So I finally got my in-attic satellite antennas up. So I'm hoping to hear some things. I heard a Chinese satellite today, 1,000 miles away at 6 degrees of elevation. I could hear the CW identifier. These are non-directional antennas and just using the preamp in the radio because the coax is short. But a couple interesting things when you listen to satellites is you hear the Doppler shift. You've all heard about Doppler shift, but you can actually hear it. And some of the little radio devices will correct for that, which is really good. Interestingly, the Doppler shift is higher, the higher in frequency. So it has to make more, it's either 2 meters, 440 up or down. Usually it's 440 up, and you have to correct the higher frequency more. But I have a little box made by CSN Technologies that actually does that, adjusts the frequencies. And tracks the satellite, tells you where it is, points the antenna. I don't have a pointable antenna, but if you did, so the other, let's see, last week I was on 17 meters and I heard this guy in Japan coming in, and I had my ham clock, which shows a Terminator on there. Everybody know what a Terminator is? So with the kind of where twilight is, but at the gray line, there's a propagation enhancement. And that occurs because the sun is no longer shining on the lower layers of the ionosphere, the D layer, which absorbs signals. So there's less absorption, but the sun's still shining on the F2 layer. So you can get enhanced propagation. And I look at my map and I could see where I was, I could see where Japan was. And all of a sudden, right when the heard enhanced propagation, that's going to need to see that. Today, Bruce and I were listening to this guy in Finland on 15 meters, and you could hear the polar flutter. And that happens because the aurora, what are they called? Auroras interfere with the signal. And there've been several recent solar flares that create. So I thought that was kind of interesting science that you can.
Monty Python had a song, Finland, Finland, Finland. Remember that?
I don't remember that one. Did it flutter?
Right.
So, all right. So I guess we can move directly into our program unless anybody else has any further comments. Yeah.
I noticed that there's been a bill submitted to the House of Representatives having to do with HROs and new legislation. So hopefully this one won't get buried in the muck somewhere. This one will go through. So.
All right, so is do I need to close the meeting? I guess. Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to close the meeting? Can I have a second? Everyone in favor of closing the business portion of the meeting? Anyone want to keep going with business? All right. Did that do good that time? All right. So tonight's speaker was a former Richmond resident, and Bruce has given me a CV. His name is John Drum, W4BXI, who lives in the beautiful town of Asheville, North Carolina. And he, like a lot of older people, lives somewhere where he can't have an outside antenna. So he's become an expert at using our remote station. And the other thing that John does is there's a network of remote software-defined radios all over the country, all over the world. And you can listen to those and see how your own signal sounds. And the other thing that you can do with that is if you are a technician and you're contemplating getting general class, but you don't want to plunk down the money until you know what it's all about, you can listen to these free software defined radios and see what it's all about, see what they talk about. I mean, if I want to do that or I want to do that. So that's a cheap way to do it. So let's see here. So he uses the SDRs to help him find contacts. I think it's most of, he's a life member of the ARRL, first licensed as a novice in 1953. So he got licensed when I was born. Retired from AT&T. That's 70 years ago. So John, take over.
Okay, I'll do my best. Pardon the voice, and my hearing's not great either. I can hear everybody that gets the mic close to their hand. I didn't do so good with the back of the meeting. So was that Bruce or was that who they just gave it to me? Herb, Bruce?
El Presidente.
El Presidente, I hear you just great. Now, how is it? Give me an honest report on the audio from me to you.
Or 9. No, the volume could be up a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
It's readability is good. It's just that you could crank the volume up.
I'm scared to go do that. You know how that is. You get in the middle of something you hate to go look at settings. Let me try to speak up and move right ahead. And thanks to all of you for letting me in here. It was a long time ago, 1953. I failed the Morse code test the first time in Norfolk. The second time I passed it in Washington, a little old 5-word per minute test, but it tripped me up and I was scared. I did finally pass it in Washington. I showed up at the Richmond Club back then, met in a place called Radio Supply across from the big Channel 6 TV tower. I don't know if that's still there or not. It was striking to me to look back how friendly that group was to me. I kind of stumbled in the back, awkward 13-year-old, and they said, "Sonny, do you know where you are?" And I didn't really know how to answer that. And finally somebody said, "This is the radio club. Is this where you meant to be?" And I said, "I think so." Said, "Do you have a license?" And I said, "Yes." And to their surprise, I said, "I have WN4BXI." And they were real friendly and nice. They said, "What are you using for a transmitter?" I said, I don't have one. And Ted, bless his heart, W4FJ himself, then with the National Guard, loaned me a 10 or 15 watt CW rig, threw a wire over the top of the roof in Barton Heights where I lived, and got me on the air. I do fondly remember some of the other people and programs. I remember the club business meeting talked about how we felt about amateur radio call signs on Virginia car license plates. I think that's pretty well accepted now, but I couldn't believe the fierce discussion about that, pro and con. And do y'all hear me okay? I feel like I'm talking to myself. Okay. Also, there was a mode talked about a lot called single sideband. Boy, did that draw some controversy. Of course, up until that time, 53, it was all CW and a lot of AM phone. And that's what I aspired to get to, was AM phone. And here was a new mode called single sideband. You know the rest. One other quick look back, there was a club meeting where some salesman was showing off a new ham rig for sale. That was before internet and all that. I think the guy was from Drake. And he said, "Let me show you this new rig." I don't remember the model. He said, "Don't try this at home." He said, "A lot of these old rigs back in 1953, you had trouble getting them to stay right on frequency. If you're old, you may remember that." He said, "Don't try this at home." He set that thing up on something, and so help me, pushed the rig off the table. And it bounced around the floor. their radio supply, and it did not change frequency. I was very impressed. So with that, I still hope you're hearing me all right. El Presidente, you got to give me a word every now and then, yay, nay, whatever, because I may go to sleep or y'all may go to sleep. You still copy all right?
We copy you over.
All right, good, good. I need you there. I'm going to try to use some slides here for my benefit more than yours. This is kind of an overview of what I want to talk to you about tonight. These are really for me. As you'll find out, I'm old. Reached my 84th birthday, get my hearing aids Tuesday, and 5 years ago moved into a retirement community, no antennas. But tonight we're talking about what is SDR, how do we do it, in case you want to know. What are the resources? I hope to give you a demo. You know, demos are pretty famous for blowing up at the last minute. So also I'll give you a quick 2-minute hunch as to what I think the future holds based on my experience yet, however many years it is as I am. So Presidente, you with me okay?
Or so good, John.
All right. If you go to Google or Wikipedia, which is where I always start to try to learn about something, you look up SDR. First thing you'll find out is a lot of things SDR stands for besides software defined radio or receivers. And of course, what we're talking about tonight is software defined radios or software defined receivers, as a lot of people tend to call them. And I'll let you look that up as homework. A quick answer is, in the old days, we had a crystal, a mixer, and all kinds of parts. Now, 2020, 2023, you can do all that by software inside of an old computer, which I think is just remarkable in itself. So you could study web SDR, SDRs with a desire to make one at home. You could do that. Or as I am, just more interested in where to get to these rigs on the internet. And that's what I'll spend my time looking at with you in the next 10 minutes or so. So why would we, I'm going to stop now. Why would we want to do any of this? Presidente or somebody there, give me some audio. Why?
Well, one thing, this is something I wish I had when I was a kid, because it's inexpensive and you can get these little RTL dongles that I think you can get it for $25, and you can get up converters for them. And that opens you up to the whole radio spectrum. Plus you got waterfall and different ways to look at different modulations. And I think it's just a cheap way to get a bird's eye view of radio in general and amateur radio specifically. Anybody else?
I think that's a good answer. Anybody else?
You can add features and functionality with just a software update.
That's right. That's right. A highfalutin example is Flex Radio. That's a high-end radio now, Flex Radio. I think I'm right in saying everything in that inside is mathematics. Of course, the power amplifier would not be, but the radio itself, the detectors, the filters, all that is software. And we do know software changes. Okay, glad you're still with me. I'm going to move along. Here are some sites, if I don't drop that laptop. We're going to look at these just a little bit, just to let you know where they are. I didn't give you a handout, but you can write down this first one, websdr.org. If you don't go anywhere else, that's a good one to go to. There's others like that VE3. Kiwi is a different architecture entirely, so that's interesting. Most of these on websdr.org can handle 100 visitors at once. The equipment is monitoring all of HF at one time. And you go in as a user just looking at 7191 or 3683, and that doesn't care how many users are there. These have other bells and whistles, but only look at about 4 at once. Let me quick change this a little bit, and I hope you can see this laptop, or at least trust me that this is looking at WebSDR .org, not .com, but .org. On this website, which you don't have to see, there's a complete listing here of free WebSDRs all over the world. I hope you can see that I'm scrolling through this faster than you can write them down, but I'm gonna just jump to the bottom because that's what I want you to see. And I hope I haven't put everybody to sleep or lost you, but we didn't have this 80 years ago. Down here at the bottom, if I ever get there, this is just an index, is a map of the world. Can you see that?
Kind of see it, not real clear. That's better.
That every little blip there is a registered WebSDR somewhere in the world, and they're free. They're free. Now I got to warn you, some of these may not be working every minute. We know from the remote there in Richmond, all kinds of things happen to trip us up. There's plenty more that are private. I've got a lot of friends that have private transceivers and private WebSDRs. They, for some reason, don't want the hassle of advertising it, because then when it acts up, they get calls and they have another life to live. So they don't just willingly put them up, if you understand what I mean. So any quick questions about that before I move on?
Carry on.
Everybody's ready for the test. Okay. I want to move right along to the fun part, which is something like, lost my page turner today. She was going to help, but she got a better job. We're going to move right on to a use of the internet to get to some of these WebSDRs. And I'm going to move quickly, which is dangerous to do because I have a feeling a lot of you have done this. There may be some who have not. And so I'm not sure which audience I'm trying to reach, but let me flip a page here. And I discovered after I moved here to a retirement community and had given up a nice rig and given up the Alpha 87A and the antennas, that there are a lot of things going on. And I found that you can use my call sign to get to some transceivers and also some WebSDRs. And also found out I don't have an antenna, but I've got a Wi-Fi. And also, as I'll show you, I'm using an old iPhone 6 without a SIM card as a receiver, kind of, to get into my own Wi-Fi to go around the world. Now I'll show you that in a second. I'm using an old iPad, Apple iPad, which never had a SIM card, to get into my home Wi-Fi to go all around the world to get into these WebSDRs. They're free. And so they're free. I can bring several up at once. I can use an old PC. I found here at the old folks' home, there was people with perfectly good Windows 7s they were throwing away. I said, oh God, don't throw that away. Let me have it. Let me have it. Because I can upgrade to Win 10. And Windows 10, I can go to all kinds of free WebSDR. Well, they didn't even want to know what I meant. They did know what I meant, but a lot of nice people gave me this equipment. So let me show you that another way. quick as I turn the page. Any other questions so far?
Good.
Okay. Um, can you tell what this is?
That's an iPad.
That's an old iPad. My wife was going to trash, but I've been using it for 5 years now on the Wi-Fi, and I'll demonstrate that to you. Over here, if you can see it, can you make out what that is?
iPhone.
That's an old iPhone 6 without a SIM card. It has not made a call in probably 10 years.
Now,
But
John, what happened to the connector on your iPad? Looks like it's sick.
that's just simply the power connector.
Yeah, but it looks like it's got some hypertrophy or something.
Oh, it
Yeah.
probably does.
Like there's
But,
somebody tried to glue it in. Oh, okay, that's better.
That's Scotch tape.
Okay.
And that actually brings up a point. Normally, when I use these, I run all the audio through a mixer. I'm not prepared to show you that very well, but down below here, I've got a mixer, 10 channel Yamaha, which you can get pretty cheap at a pawn shop. A friend gave me that one, and I can run each of these separate web SDRs into a mixer along with a remote I'm working on, like W4FJ, and I can run all that through my earphones. Now, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't,
Well,
sum it up.
Are you
Okay.
listening to the same station on all the different sources?
Using the mixer, I can listen to them all at once, but it's even better because the timing's always a little
Right.
different, Doppler and all that.
Mhm.
If I pick out one where I can hear better.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. It's like
Yeah.
a spatial diversity receiver.
And I can real quick pick out the one that works best. I spent a lot of time as a net control for the recreational vehicle service net. I had a nice transmitter in Alabama, but frequently I could not hear people 300, 400, 500 miles away in the morning trying to call me. I just didn't know they were there. I could not hear them. But using a web SDR in Pennsylvania somewhere, I could tell they were there. And I could tell who was hearing me. And I would say, Fred, please pick up Jeff. I know he's there. He probably doesn't copy me. You please pick him up. So that confused some members, but it was real great for some others. So that's kind of the experience. How we doing, or do we charge ahead?
The similar thing is done. There's a twice daily net here in Virginia called Virginia Phone Net on 80 meters. And they also use SDR to cover up the holes in propagation, but carry on.
Yes. Well, you can do that for plain old hamming. You can do it. And I use WFJ all the time to get into the RV net still. And they operate on 7191. Sometimes if I don't have the best path from W4FJ, I'll pick another transceiver somewhere that lets me transmit through a transmitter to get into the net. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do now for a quick demo, which I hope works, I'm set up with privileges to, and I think I just got upstaged, to go back to WFJ. I'm sorry, W8RJ in Richmond. I'm sorry, they're in Michigan. You can tell I'm old and I can't do several things at once. And while I was talking to you wonderful people, they took it away. That's part of the challenge with remotes and all the rest of it till we get a greater body. All right, I'm dialing in 7091.5, And I'm gonna tune up there on a remote, which you don't see. That's in Michigan. It's tuning. Okay. What I've got set up over here is W4FJ on a different laptop, set up to listen on 7020. And I hope you're going to be able to hear that just through the air to this mic. I'm going to send a V from Michigan. And when I started setting this up a week ago, I couldn't be heard in Richmond. Now I'm hearing it pretty good. Can you hear that?
No, we're supposed to be hearing da 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 da.
All right, can you hear the V? Can you not hear the V?
But
Have I
static.
lost it entirely? All right, let me turn up K3FEF in Pennsylvania. This is a web SDR. Can you hear that?
Then a little static.
All right, I'm gonna send a V, but you hope it'll break right through. Here we go now.
No.
Can any of you with good ears hear that? Maybe not. All right, well, so it is with demos. Okay, let me try the last one, which is in Utah. And in the mornings, I tend to use all three of these because they're cheap. There's nobody in line to use them.
It's probably a little long right now anyway, so Utah might be better.
Maybe. Well, it's funny. See, a week ago, I was checking up what demos to use. And Utah is the only one that heard me. So let me try the V. Let me get the mouse without borders over here. All right, here we go. I'm gonna send test. Can you hear that?
Here, yeah, I think I'm hearing a little bit of that now. You might need to put it closer to your microphone.
Well, actually, my forgiveness, that didn't work better. I had this mic right up against the loudspeaker out of that iPhone. So that was like so many demos.
Do you have more than one microphone on? Because that one doesn't really sound like it's picking up your voice all that well either.
Well, I failed to set that up properly with Bruce early, and I'm afraid I'm not giving you enough audio. And I'm scared. I'm scared to go into the Windows settings now. I think we'll lose it all. Can I just talk real loud and try to buzz through future?
We can hear you real well now.
Okay, well
That's coming in a lot better.
Hi, oh Mike. It likes to be real close. My future view is there's going to be more remotes like W4FJ. Now you mentioned it earlier. Why would there be more remotes like that? Somebody mentioned it in the business meeting.
It allows people to dip their toe in without depleting their wallet.
It escapes homeowners associations, right? Some of you don't know what that is. Ron, I see shaking his head. There's lots of going to be more remotes. I think there's going to be more online web SDRs that are free and open to anybody. There are going to be fewer antennas to be seen outside. And what about no TVI? Is TVI a thing of the past?
Probably interferes more with radio than radio does with cable.
Yeah, gotcha. I think there'll be fewer big rigs, like when I was growing up. One final thing I've enjoyed working field days. I've enjoyed working like your Virginia QSO party. Got a certificate over there for 1 year. I can tune up to a suggested frequency for a contest or a special event. And I can use the web SDR to see who else is out there on those same frequencies trying to get in. And I can tell if my signal is not able to get to them, I can pick another remote to try to get in. So that's kind of handy. So with that, that's all I've got. Let me pass it back to President or Bruce, whoever. Bruce was going to be my co-pilot today to help me through. What did we miss or not say? Somebody help me out.
A question. Do you feel like the experience for you as a ham is comparable to using actual hard real equipment, pretty much the same experience, or do you feel it's different?
I think it's very different because when I went to VPI, I had one class in solid state electronics, and that was an option. It was not a required class. And I imagine today everything is solid state electronics. So I kind of feel like 20, 30 years ago, I had to kind of relearn the hobby. And I think it's quicker and easier and more appealing now, actually. And particularly here in a retirement community, I can't build a rig anymore. I certainly can't put an antenna out on a balcony and generate RF. So I hope that answers the question.
Really was kind of a platform neutral question. Do you still get the same pleasure as a ham?
I get a different kind. I always enjoyed putting up antennas. I always enjoyed the big rigs. I enjoyed some wonderful big rigs. I've had some good ones, FD1000 and so on. But frankly, some of the web SDRs out there have better filters than I ever dreamed of having 10 years ago. And some of the web SDRs, you can tune right in down there, 20 hertz or so on a CW sideband. You can touch a button and it'll auto tune for you. So it's really gotten better. It's a better experience.
Ken Leidner had a comment or question.
I have a question. Since you are able to hear your own transmissions, did you ever use it to, shall we say, understand how your voice is being compressed and deal with that side of the hobby?
I have, but frankly, was there more to that? I have used it for that, but I find there's so much distortion through the airways and the various internet links. I gotten to where I don't trust it.
Thank you.
There's a couple of guys on the air, one of them called Mr. Audio, and every Friday afternoon, he's on 40-meter phone to give you his impression of your audio, good, bad, or ugly. I kind of trust him. He'll give me a signal points and he'll say,
Anybody else have questions for John? Go ahead.
I've had a question I wanted to ask anybody that knew about HOAs, because we are possibly going to move, and that's not been something I was interested in. However, I know the FCC rules, allows reasonable accommodations to build a station. So how is it that they keep you from doing that?
I used to live under an HOA. I had 3 antennas up. Basically, they shut you down by saying you're not allowed to have any antenna. So, and yeah, when you move there, you basically sign a contract that says, hey, I'm not going to violate your rules. As I say, I had 3 antennas up. A GR5 plus, which is basically 150 feet of wire, center fed dipole. The good news is once it's up, you can't see it unless you look straight up, because it's basically a small, thin copper wire. Once it's been out for a little bit, it corrodes and whatnot. And as I say, you need to get a white cloud behind it. Otherwise, it just gets lost in the trees. I had a J-pole sitting on an old DirecTV mount on the back side of the house. And if anybody was going to say anything to me, I was going to tell them FM radio receiver. They wouldn't know any difference. The other one I had was a 6-meter, 5-element beam. And if anybody questioned me on that, that was my TV antenna, because nobody would know how long the wires are or the rods for the beam. So I violated the rules. They could have shut me down and made me take them all down, but they were all in the backyard. You deal with it differently.
Well, it depends on how your HOA is worded. And in mine, it says antennas permanently attached to the structure. And my wire antennas, I can detach in about 30 seconds. So I got, but it really depends on the wording of the HOA. And there's a lot of complexity. That's probably a simplified answer, but there was a gentleman back here that had another question.
Yes, John and anybody else, I was curious whether code is done over the SDRs or if it's all voice.
There's plenty of code. The SDRs are such that you can dial in whatever frequency, whatever mode you want. If I want to listen on upper or lower sideband or CW or CW reverse, some of them are set up for that, and I use it for that. I actually do.
And is it kind of equivalent to full break-in, or are you pretty much transmitting and you have to wait till you quit before you hear?
Well, the web SDR is a receiver. It's on all the time. I would not use it as my principal transceiver. I would want to use something like W8RG in Michigan or W4UOA in Alabama, where I have privileges to operate CW and break-in. I haven't approached WFJ on that yet, but WFJ does not allow me to operate CW, much less break-in. I'm going to raise that question in a week or two. So that's future.
One last thing. I didn't know if you had used or if anybody has used V-band or Veil internet CW just over the internet, not using radio waves, designed by a couple of hams who just wanted to practice without embarrassing each other. But then they've opened it up to the world. I've been an HOA, so I've not had an antenna. So I've been QRT for 10 years, but last year I've been on V-band and Veil, and it's just a really fun way to meet a lot of hams and non-hams around the world. I've worked with people all over, but I'm anxious to try to get back on the air if I can get my attic antenna working.
I hope you'll mention that in the next minutes so I can read about that and look it up. And Matt has a question for you. It looks like K4YEF. Mac's muted, I think.
Unmute yourself, Matt.
Mac.
Or is it Mac?
Mac, I think you're muted. We got that problem here too.
There he is. Isn't that him right there? Mac, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, is that better?
Okay, there he goes. Go ahead and ask your question then.
Okay, it's not, as I understand it, it's not a technical question, it's a legal law. The HOAs want to restrict hams with antennas, and the HOA said that they had the authority to prevent that. Well, the HOAs and the hams went to the FCC, and the FCC ruled that they did not have the authority to overrule the HOA. So the HOA therefore became sovereign in terms of ham radio. All right, hams and the ARL then went to Congress and asked them to give FCC the authority to overrule the HOAs. The first time it was up there, it failed. This time, it was mentioned earlier, there's another bill before Congress to allow the FCC to overrule the HOAs. But right now, it isn't a question of technology. You can do it. I mean, there are ways. We heard a very excellent program tonight on how to do it, but it's a legal question as to whether the FCC can do it. And what they're asking, ARL is asking the FCC or asking Congress to allow the FCC to override HOAs. And if they do, then hams are in a better position to put up their antennas and so forth. I think that's the basic answer, if I understand the issue.
Thank you, Mac.
Hey, let me finish by saying thanks. I've enjoyed it. And I'll be around and I'll be in touch via newsletter. Thank y'all.
Okay, John, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for talking to us. Just give John a round of applause. So I guess we're done, right? Oh, for the members that are still on board, we're gonna have a brief board meeting directly after this meeting. I know, Mac, you're out there. I don't know whether David Robinson is out there, but if you want to participate in that, just to hang around on
Yeah, I'll be
Zoom,
here.
I guess. Is that right, Bruce? Okay. All right, so that's it.
Have a good evening, everybody.